My name is Matthew Joslin and I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager at the Japan National Tourism Organisation.
Welcome to Breaking Travel News. We're here at World Travel Market 2018. I can't remember what year it is now. So tourism in Japan has come into sharper focus with the Rugby World Cup taking place next year. How is the government preparing for the event?
So around the Rugby World Cup, really, I think what's really important about the Rugby World Cup, especially compared to something like the Olympics, which obviously, and the Paralympics, which we have the following year, is the fact that it's the country hosting, so it's Japan hosting, not necessarily just a city, which is really, really important for us because as we see all the tourism figures rising, it still tends to be sort of first-timers, first of all, and also people who are doing sort of Tokyo, Kyoto, the main places on the route. And what's really great about the Rugby World Cup is that it will be hosted by the regions, a lot of sort of education around those sort of areas, seeing the breadth of Japan, whether that's sort of the landscapes, the culture, the cuisine. Because I think a lot of people have quite this image of Japan as maybe a monolithic kind of place, so quite homogenous maybe, but actually there's a real wealth of diversity there to be explored, whether that's sort of the activities you can do or the experiences you can have, and the Rugby World Cup is going to be a really, really fantastic time for that. And I know that all the prefectures on the ground are really getting behind it as well. They see it as a fantastic way to sort of bridge the gap to, between sort of especially Western tourists from our market specifically. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really special time, and there's just a really great atmosphere around it at the minute, I think, on both in Japan and here. So we're really happy about that. Yeah.
That's great. You touched on it briefly, but you've got the Olympic Games in 2020. How important is that for the destination, likewise?
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously just having all this kind of international focus on Japan is fantastic, especially at this particular time when tourism, we're having a little bit of a boom at the minute. So really, we're looking to focus on sort of where you can get to outside of Tokyo as well. So Tokyo is this amazing city, almost a country in itself, to be honest. But what sort of other experiences can you have outside of Tokyo using the bullet train system, or any number of the other sort of travel infrastructure options that they have in Japan on the ground? And I think above and beyond that, what's really coming into focus as well is the focus on sustainability, so making sure that it's as much of the energy used in the Olympics and the Paralympic Games are renewable, and also that the money is being funded, sort of poured back into the local communities, so making sure that areas that have been affected by particular tragedies or sort of the earthquake and the tsunami that happened a couple of years ago, that those regions feel the benefit as much as possible, because they really do have a lot to offer, both sort of culturally on the ground, the people, the hospitality, as well as the landscapes actually, which are really beautiful. So places like Kamaishi, for example, which is actually going to be hosting the rugby, they have a new stadium there, and Airbnb did a project with them, sort of welcome people like an insider's guide, how to get about, how to access the culture and things like that in these relatively sort of remote but authentic places. And a lot about the Olympics and the Paralympics is going to be about that too. So there are some of the stadiums are being held in Fukushima, for example. So yeah, it's just a really good opportunity on all fronts, I think, and we're all really excited about the attention it's going to bring and sort of deepening that relationship between the UK and Japan, and all the markets that we cover, to be honest. So yeah.
That's great. And sticking with the sport theme, you've got more ski resorts per capita and the most reliable snow in the world. So a focus of this year will be bringing Japan's best kept snow secrets to the world. How will you be promoting this?
Yeah, so we have a number of options. So I guess the best part about this is people don't really realise that 70% of Japan is mountain. So as you've just said, there's that crazy figure about it having the most snow resorts per capita, and it really is true. They're all over the place. So there's kind of a ski resort for everybody in a way, like up in the north where you have the real deep powder snow and sort of real virgin expanses, That's perfect for your seasoned skier who really wants an adventurous experience in Japan, skiing with deep powder snow. They can go off-piste and do whatever they like. Essentially, it's a real sort of the outback kind of Japan, but snowy if you want. And then you have the other side of things, which is Hakuba, which previously had hosted the Olympic Games, the Winter Olympics. So it already has already very set up sort of infrastructurally around that. And is on the bullet train line, so it's really easy to access, and for families especially. You have things like the Snow Monkeys, which is around the corner, Zenkoji Temple, which is just around the corner, and the wider sort of Japan Alps around that region. So really, I think it's key to sort of focus on the fact that that these ski resorts are very accessible. Whether it be by internal flights, which you can get at reduced rates, with both of the national carriers, also using new low-cost airlines, using the Japan Rail Pass. There are new specific rail passes that cover the Hokkaido region, so the northern region, and some of the Tohoku region just below, which also has some amazing ski resorts. And then it's basically just working with those infrastructural tools, and some of the cheapest lift passes around as well. So there's just so much to talk about, really. I think once you're in Japan, especially when it comes to sort of snow sports, people will soon find that the costs actually aren't as much as what a lot of people would think. So on the ground, it's ready for it, I think. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Great, and in terms of connectivity, we've got it's about to become even more accessible from London with the announcement of the only direct non-stop flights from the UK to Osaka, launching in March thanks to British Airways and JAL.
Yes, that's right, yeah, which is fantastic news for us as well, obviously. Osaka is another city that I think, it's one of my favourite cities actually. Obviously, on the record, I don't have a favourite area, but Osaka is a really amazing place. I think quite different to Tokyo as well. They have two big cities, quite modern cities with different characters, and that will really give us another opportunity, or an opportunity for UK travellers to visit areas like the Setouchi, for example, like the Inland Sea, which hosts a Triennale art festival every 3 years, and that's actually happening next year. So the inaugural year of the BA flight will be the same year that you can visit all these small art islands dotted in a bay with revolving art exhibitions and installations, and also just access to some of the more sort of remote regions of Japan, which really house a lot of the authentic culture festivals, beautiful art museums, gardens, landscapes, abandoned mines. There's all sorts of things to sort of inspire the imagination, and I think that's what we're really looking forward to with the announcement of the BA flight next year.
That sounds like my kind of thing. So how important is the UK as a source market? Where else do guests tend to come from?
The UK is one of the most important source markets, to be honest. We're currently the biggest. We send the biggest number of people from the UK to Japan, from Europe, sorry. So basically within Europe, we're the biggest marketplace, which obviously makes us a very key market and makes the Rugby World Cup so much more important. But sort of from other areas, we're seeing, specifically within our remit here in London, we're seeing numbers from Sweden increasing, from Holland, places like Israel, obviously South Africa with the coming of the Rugby World Cup is going to be another big one. And that's not even to speak about sort of the East Asian tourism, which is obviously booming as well. So yeah, I mean, people are coming from all over, to be honest, and it makes it so much more of an exciting time for Japan.
That's great. And lastly, where else outside of Osaka and Tokyo are you looking to promote? You touched on it briefly, but what else is there to see?
Yeah, well, the thing is with so much happening in Japan, it's difficult to narrow it down a lot of the time. But I think the island of Kyushu is going to see quite a lot of attention in the next coming year. So that's kind of just south of, if you have sort of Tokyo, Osaka, and then you have Kyushu down at the island. That island at the bottom has a sort of subtropical climate, beautiful beaches, a really strong culture of onsen, so the hot springs, lots of geothermal activity, beautiful islands that are sort of very remote, overgrown, but have some really strong resorts who are opening up to the international market at the minute, and to top it all off, hosting 3 of the games for the Rugby World Cup. So yeah, I think Kyushu is going to be a big one. A lot of sort of luxury hotels as well, sort of moving into Fukuoka, the capital city there. So yeah, I think that's one to watch. Yeah.
Great, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
Not at all. Thank you very much.